So this month, our Seed of Awakening is creating affluence, and this talk is entitled The Power of Knowledge, Desire, and Spirit. So let's break it down and start with knowledge, the truth. Now, this is a slippery slope, right? Because humans have created all kinds of beliefs and all kinds of things we think are true. And not only do we think they're true, we know they're true, right? But how do you know what's really the truth? Who do you trust to tell you the truth? This week, we're looking at the letters P through T in Deepak Chopra's book, Creating Affluence, the A to Z Steps to Richer Life. The letter Q stands for questioning dogma, ideology, question outside authority. Chopra says, it is only by questioning what people take for granted, what people hold to be true, that we can break through the hypnosis of social conditioning. Now, when I was born in 1955, doctors were selling cigarettes. They were telling us that their favorite brand of cigarette was less irritating to their throats, and people were buying cigarettes because the doctors said they were the best thing that you could have. Now, how many of you can remember flying around the back seat of the family car as our parents careened around the roads because we had no seat belts, right? In those days, seat belts weren't thought of as important. In fact, I remember when my grandfather learned that seat belts were going to be required, he was very firm about no one was going to tell him what to do to save his life to put a seat belt on, which I thought was pretty funny. So anyway, think about every doctor who ever delivered a diagnosis. You have fill in the blank. For example, Susan, the x-rays came back and it appears that you have an enlarged funny bone. Wow, remember that word abracadabra? Reverend Elizabeth told us about the origin of this magic word. It comes from the Aramaic abracadabra, meaning I will create as I speak. So when most of us hear a diagnosis from a doctor, we take it on. We tell others, I have an oversized funny bone. But what if it's not a funny bone? What if it's something more dire and frightening? If you leave the doctor's office and you begin telling people, I have blank, abracadabra, you create as you speak. You may not have created the condition or the appearance, but by speaking those words, you are claiming it. This is the problem with mortal knowledge. If we believe it, we create it. It's often at this point that some well-meaning friend or counselor or maybe a support group facilitator will come along and offer hope. Let me tell you that hope is just fear in disguise. Okay, hope combines fear with this kind of rooting for some sort of outcome, one outcome or another. Think about, like, I hope, I cross my fingers. This is not a powerful affirmation. And this is not the knowledge we're looking for here. Our teaching, the science of mind, was created as an antidote to the dire medical model in the early 1800s, which was downright medieval. I'm not kidding you. People were prescribed toxic tonics that were laced with mercury. There were applied leeches or other methods of draining the bad blood from the body. And it was in these times that clockmaker and inventor Phineas P. Quimby was suffering from tuberculosis and suffering even more from the remedies that he was ingesting, which were literally killing him. He had given up all hope and resigned himself to die until he decided to try a therapeutic procedure that was recommended by a friend of his, horseback riding. This is actually a treatment that was developed by the ancient Greeks who used vigorous horseback riding as a tonic. Quimby said, "At the time, I was so weak I could barely lift my whip. But excitement took possession of my senses, and I drove the horse as fast as I could, uphill and down, until I reached home. And when I got into the stable, I felt as strong as I ever did. From that time on, I continued to improve." Quimby began to notice that as his spirits rose, so did his bodily vigor. This experience formed Quimby's notion that the mind has an effect on the body. He was cured of tuberculosis, and he went on to heal hundreds of people and teach the power of the mind to heal. His work is considered the foundation of the New Thought spiritual movement. There's only one knowledge that we need, and that is divine intelligence. The truth is simple. There is only one life. That life is God. That life is perfect, and that life is my life and your life too. Now on to desire, intention. What do we really want? In Chopra's book, the letter P stands for purpose in life and for pure potentiality. He says we must be able to state our purpose in very simple terms. For example, Chopra's purpose in life is to heal, to make everyone I come in contact with happy, and to create peace. My purpose is to radiate love wherever I go. So what is your purpose? Think about it for a second. Say it out loud. What is your purpose? I want to hear your purpose here. Serve God? Yes, 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 some more. Turn to one another and just say your purpose. Keep it simple and clear. It's beautiful. All right, now, what do you desire? Take a moment. I'm going to do a little exercise with you guys. So take a moment, if you will, and just go within. Close your eyes if you're comfortable. And think of something that you need money to be able to afford. Picture that thing. It might be an object like a new car. It could be the perfect house or a lovely place to retire, or just maybe bigger numbers in your bank account. Whatever it is, see it in your mind's eye. What does it look like? What does it sound like? Taste like? Smell like? How do you feel knowing that you have that thing? What is it that you really want? What is the end result of this thing that you need money for? Feel how that feels. Now think about, when was the last time you felt those feelings? Joy, freedom, peace of mind, security. I know that you have felt these things because you wouldn't desire them if you never experienced them. So you can open your eyes now. How will you feel when you get that thing? And how does that tie in with your purpose? Money might be the vehicle, but the destination is something very different. It's joy, it's peace of mind, it's comfort. So your finances pay for things, experiences, etc., but those things bring about feelings that you want to have. So even when the money is the thing that you want more of, when you receive it, you feel a certain way. You feel free, you feel safe or peaceful. I think that vision boards, remember the vision boards? Maybe some of you have them at home. I think vision boards should be filled with words words that describe how you want to feel, and then let's let God bring you the car, the mansion, the partner, or whatever it is, the vehicle to that feeling. When my husband and I would RV with our motorhome, we would pull into an RV park and park on this little strip of concrete, and next to it is a little patch of grass with a picnic table on it, just tiny. And we would open that awning, and I would put a tablecloth out on that table. And I felt like the queen of the mansion. I felt so affluent and so prosperous in this little tiny space, right? And I feel that way now, even if I just sit outside and feel the sunshine on me. I feel so affluent. I feel so loved and so good. So these feelings are capable, you're capable of having these feelings in everyday moments all the time. Now, your desires and your intentions create your experiences, whether good or bad. So as I grew up, my grandma on my dad's side, my dad was an only child, and my grandma had had a miscarriage before my dad came along, so he was literally the sun, the moon, and the stars, the universe to my grandma. He was everything to her. And so when my dad was 52 years old, he had a heart attack, and he was in intensive care for about a month. And after that month, he passed. He made his transition. And so when I went to see my grandmother and tell her that her son, my father, had passed away, she looked at me after I told her that, and she said, well, you know, he's in a better place. And I thought, okay, this is good. And as I continued to look at her, her entire face started drooping on one side. And she had a stroke right in that moment. Now, the reason I'm sharing this with you is that stroke erased every memory she ever had of my dad or being married. It regressed her to a place where she was a young girl, and I turned into her mother. Now, that shows you the power of the mind. Her mind said, there is no way that my son is gone. No way. And so she created a new reality for herself in which he had never been born and that she had never, been married or had a life. And she lived about a year after my dad. And she was happy. She was a little girl, and we used to bring her little stuffed animals and treats to eat, and she was a happy, happy person. So even though that's not the outcome you would want, it just shows you the power of the mind. I met a lady at a foster parent conference once who had just recently adopted 2 boys from Romania. They were brothers. And she went through a lot to get those boys. It was a lot of time, a lot of paperwork, a lot of everything. And when she finally got them, she took them to the pediatrician, which was what she was to do. And while she was there, the doctor looked at her and said, I don't like the looks of that mole on your neck. That looks funny to me. It looks kind of like melanoma. Well, she went home, and in her mind, she said, no, that is not happening. I did not go through all of this to bring these boys here so that they could have a mother to then have some kind of cancerous melanoma. I know. And so by the time she got into a dermatologist to have it checked out, there was nothing there. No, there, nothing. That's the power of the mind and what we can do in our intentions when they are strong enough. And finally, spirit. Now, spirit is what makes it happen. In the field of pure potentiality, everything is possible. Yet, nothing exists until we call it into form and that we're conscious of it. So that's right. Our consciousness is necessary for our reality. In his book, Biocentrism, author Robert Lanza uses the example of a rainbow. In order for there to be a rainbow, there are 3 things necessary. There is the sun, there are raindrops, and then there is the conscious eye at the right geometric position to see that rainbow. We are absolutely necessary for the rainbow's existence. When nobody's there, there simply is no rainbow. As a beloved teacher of mine says, when a tree falls in the forest and no one is there, does it make a sound? Well, he says the answer is, not only does it not make a sound, but there's no tree and there's no forest. Now, when I was learning this in ministerial school, you can imagine as I came out of my class and told my husband, think about this now. If we're in the bedroom with the door closed, how do you know the living room is out there? And he looked at me like, okay, you're nuts. Like, what's the matter with you, right? And I said, no, really. He said, well, I know it's there. And I said, well, how can you prove it? Can you prove it? If you're in the bedroom and the door's closed, can you prove that the living room is out there? Well, he looked at me and he said, you know what? You're nuts. Let's stop talking about this. I don't want to talk about this anymore. It's like kind of spooky to think about these things, right? But a couple of days later, as I was getting ready to leave to run some errands, I said, okay, honey, I'm going to go to the grocery store and I'm going to go to CVS. And he looked at me and he goes, how do you know they're there? And I looked at him and I said, I don't, but I'll find out when I get there. This has become a joke in our family now that we don't know. We'll know it when we see it. When we get there, we'll know we're there, and it's there. The infinite field is God. All possibility is available and fluid until we put our attention and our desire to it, and then we create things. In chapter 4 of Chopra's book, he tells us that several years ago, when Maharishi Mahesh Yogi, the founder of Transcendental Meditation, asked a group of physicists to describe the qualities of the unified field. And they came up with 25. I'll read them to you. Total potential of natural law, infinite organizing power, awake within itself, infinite correlation, perfect orderliness, infinite dynamism, infinite creativity, pure knowledge, unboundedness, perfect balance, self-sufficiency, all possibilities, infinite silence, harmonizing, evolutionary, self-referral, invincibility, immortality, unmanifest, nourishing, integrating, simplicity, purifying, freedom, bliss. What does this sound like to you? Yes, it sounds like God, right? It sounds like the mind of spirit, God, Brahman, Allah, source, universe, whatever you want to call it. And these descriptions came from scientists. How interesting, right? Scientists have shown that thoughts transform themselves into molecules. When they were first discovered, they were called neuropeptides because they were found in the brain. But now we know that these neuropeptides are not confined to the brain, but they permeate every cell in the body. To think a thought is to practice not only brain chemistry, but body chemistry. Every thought you have, every idea you entertain sends a chemical message to the core of cellular awareness. Putting attention on a word, which is the symbolic expression of an idea, is therefore magical. It transforms the invisible to the visible. Abracadabra. Ernest Holmes, the founder of our teaching, called this the creative process. There is spirit, first cause, or use any of those 25 words that describe the quantum field. That is where the idea begins. And then there is universal subjectivity. This is like the soil that the idea is planted into, and it goes about creating whatever thought is placed into it. Remember, you won't get tomatoes from zucchini seeds, right? And you won't get affluence from planting seeds of lack and fear. And then there is the form, the creation. This is the end result of the thought placed into that subjective soil. Affirmative prayer utilizes this process. It begins with knowledge with a capital K. That is, God is all there is. And then recognition. As this is true, then I am that. And then the desire we call realization. This is where we declare the truth for ourselves and others. We speak affirmative statements such as, I know my funny bone is exactly the right size, and I am whole, perfect, and complete. And we finish with words of thanksgiving and release the prayer into that subjective medium that brings about the demonstration. Ernest Holmes said, there is a power for good in the universe greater than you, and you can use it. Holmes believed that we are the scientists of our lives and that this teaching is of no use unless you use it and use it to create a better life. As Chopra said, the universe is a big dream machine, churning out dreams, transforming them into reality, and our own dreams are inextricably woven into the overall scheme of things. The mechanics for the fulfillment of these dreams are contained firstly in the power of knowledge, then in the power of intention or desire, which find their immeasurable potentiality in the power of spirit. And so in this moment, I'd like to just invite the band to make their way up as I wrap this talk up. Now, the letter T in Chopra's book stands for transcendence, timeless awareness, talent banking, and tithing. And I want to focus on tithing for a moment since we're looking at affluence this month. I know that this word can be kind of triggering for people. In many spiritual traditions, tithing is not an offering but a requirement. And so tithing is actually, it just simply means giving away a certain portion of your income without any conditions or strings attached. When you give, a vacuum is created that attracts even more of what you've given away. You hear this all the time. As I give, so I receive. This is the absolute truth, and I have experimented with this many times in my life. Whenever I catch myself saying, I can't afford blank, I can't afford I can't afford blank, I go to my checkbook and I write a check. I give money to some place that means something to me. It could be Awakening Ways. It could be the food bank. It could be the animal shelter. I do that consciously as a demonstration to Spirit that I trust. I trust that I am supplied and supported. This really works, and you can try it on for yourself. It really does work. You don't have to give a huge amount of money, but any amount that you give from your source comes back to you. It opens up that flow, that circular flow of circulation. And so the call to action this week, number 1, pay attention to the way that you talk about your life, your health, your finances. If your words don't match your desire, change your words. You can do that. Even if you say it, you can change it up and rephrase it. Remember the feelings that you had when you imagined having that thing that you desire, and then find ways to feel that feeling. You are co-creating with infinite intelligence. What will you create this week? And finally, choose one of the 25 words that describe the divine, and pay attention to them. Just pick one a day if you want. Just simply pay attention. Don't analyze, don't define, evaluate, or interpret. Just remember that your word creates as you speak it. Abracadabra. And finally, I'd like to close with a prayer treatment. So if you would, just take a moment and close your eyes. Feel your feet on the floor. Feel yourself in the chair. Knowing that everything that you are experiencing and everything that you are feeling, all of your 5 senses are informing you of the presence of the divine. The chair and you are all divine. Everything started as an idea. And so I know that each person here is co-creating with the divine. I know that's true for me. I know that's true for everyone. And I know that this co-creation is bringing about magnificent demonstrations. I know that as we each speak and think our desires with our full intent, with our open heart, that those desires are manifesting. They are manifested right now. I know that whatever needs to be healed is healed. I know that whatever information needs to be revealed is revealed. It's all available. It's available in the mind of God, and we each have that mind. Everyone shares the mind of the divine. And so I know that as we go about our week, we are creating wonderful things for ourselves, for our loved ones, for our community, for the world. Our intention and our love can literally shift conditions in this world. Believe it, trust it, because it is true. I'm so grateful for the good that is happening now, that is on its way, and that is to come for each and every person here. And I release this prayer with great conviction and power. I know that my words are powerful, and I know that as I speak them, that divine law moves. And it says yes. And so I just give this prayer into that law. I release it, I let it go, and so it is. Namaste.